Regular public meeting. Today is October 10th, 2018, and the time is 8 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same, as provided by law, but scheduled including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Newton. Here. Councilman Seaton.
Here.
Councilman Voigt.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
And Mayor Hache.
Here. Please stand for flag salute. Please join us in a moment of silence in honor of the brave men and women serving our nation's armed forces and as first responders. Thank you. Before we get to the order of business, is Ms. Sonia Heredia here today? Sonia Heredia? Please come up. Ms. Heredia is the owner of Zani's Skin Care Studio, and it's a new business in town. We would like to invite her to introduce herself and tell us about her business and where it's located.
It's located, good evening.
If you could just, ma'am,
sorry, I have to
on the microphone, there's a button. If you could push it and the green light comes on. Okay.
Perfect.
Pull it up a little.
Pull it up a little bit. Yep.
There you go.
No.
Try the button. Is
Is that button again? Is it
green
on?
light on?
Let's try
Good
it.
evening to everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Sonia Heredia, and I am sorry, I'm a little nervous. I ask for forgiveness. And my name is Sonia Heredia, and I am licensed skincare specialist, and I have been practicing skincare in the state of New Jersey for almost 15 years. My husband is here with me tonight, and we are very honored to have been invited by the Village Council for a formal welcome to Sony Skincare Studio, to this wonderful town of Ridgewood. Sony Skincare Studio's mission and goal is to offer highly personalized beauty treatments. As the owner of Sony Skincare Studio, I feel humble and grateful for the opportunity that Village of Ridgewood has given to Sony Skincare Studio, and also to open, that soon will open its doors to offer exceptional experiences of beauty treatments to Ridgewood residents and its nearest towns as well.
Well, welcome. And so when do you open?
Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months is our goal.
Okay. And your address is where? Where are you located?
27 Godwin Ave.
27 Godwin Avenue. Well, thank you very much, and welcome to Ridgewood. And looking forward to seeing your business once it opens. Thank you. Okay. What's that? All right. Acceptance of financial reports. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statements of funds on hand as of September 30, 2018 be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Newton? Yes. Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. I move that the Village Council minutes of September 12, 2018, having been reviewed by the Village Council and now available in the Village Clerk's office, be approved as submitted.
Second.
Newton? Yes. Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. We'll move on now. We have a few proclamations. The first is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and that will be read by Councilman Voigt.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas November marks the start of a month-long series of activities aimed at raising diabetes awareness and calling for urgent action to tackle the diabetes epidemic, and whereas type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease which cannot be prevented or cured. It occurs when a person's pancreas stops producing insulin. Its onset is not related to diet or lifestyle, and it results in the need for insulin to survive. And whereas when you are afflicted with type 2 diabetes, your body does not use insulin properly, which is referred to as insulin resistance, and the recommended treatments are lifestyle changes, oral medications, and insulin. And whereas 9.3% of the population, or 29.1 million people in the United States, have diabetes, with 21 million people diagnosed and 8.1 million people undiagnosed, which means 17.8 of the people with diabetes are undiagnosed. And whereas World Diabetes Day, to be held on November 14th, is led by the International Diabetes Foundation and its member associations. And whereas during Diabetes Awareness Month, we vow to combat this chronic life-threatening illness by standing with those living with diabetes, honoring the professionals and advocates engaged in fighting diabetes, and working to raise awareness about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And whereas the National Diabetes Education Program's 2018 theme is Family and Diabetes with the slogan, Diabetes Concerns Every Family, the campaign will promote the importance of affordable and equitable access for all women at risk for or living with diabetes to the essential diabetes medicines and technologies, self-management education, and information they require. And whereas as long as diabetes continues to burden our village, we must press on towards tomorrow's promising breakthroughs in treatment, care, and education. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood recognizes the struggles that families face and wants to show its support by proclaiming November as Diabetes Awareness Month and November 14th, 2018 as World Diabetes Day, and encourages all residents of the Village of Ridgewood to join in this worthy observance.
Thank you. Now for Blindness Awareness Month, in recognition of the 75th anniversary of Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Whereas an individual lacking visual perception or possessing vision that cannot be corrected with eyeglasses or contact lenses is considered blind, with those who cannot see light or shapes having total blindness, with almost 285 million people who are blind or visually impaired worldwide. And whereas blindness is a condition that can be genetic, with the main cause of blindness in the United States being diabetes, cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, chemical burns, and sports injuries, while complications of premature birth, complications of eye surgery, lazy eye, optic neuritis, stroke, and lead poisoning can also cause blindness. Whereas blindness and profound vision loss affect more than 130,000 adults over the age 35 in New Jersey, according to state statistics, and cases of eye diseases that can lead to vision loss are increasing as the population ages. The National Eye Institute, part of the National Institutes of Health, projects a threefold increase in cases of blindness alone by 2050. And whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood recognizes Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey, who empowers those with profound vision loss to live engaged, productive, and independent lives. And whereas Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey is celebrating its 75th anniversary on October 13th, 2018, as one of the longest-serving nonprofits for adults with vision loss and has offered wellness programs in the Village of Ridgewood since 2010. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, in recognition of this event, does hereby proclaim October as Blindness Awareness Month and October 13th, 2018 as the 75th anniversary of Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey in the Village of Ridgewood, and does hereby commend and recognize Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey for their continuing work in fostering independence for those with vision loss and encouraging awareness in our community.
Thank you. And now the recognition of the Spirit of America's story, The Wall, the traveling exhibit in Ridgewood. Councilwoman Walsh.
Whereas the Spirit of America's story, The Wall, is a traveling exhibit commemorating our country's fight for freedom from 1775 to present day. And whereas the Traveling Wall is a 70-foot traveling exhibit that commemorates, through images, a timeline of the Revolutionary War to the War on Terrorism, and is comprised of 10 connected pieces of artwork that stand 92 inches tall and 100 feet long. And whereas Native Americans, military men and women, law enforcement, and firefighters are pictured through the images to keep America's sense of patriotism ignited and a continued respect for those who wear uniforms and bring us together as a country. And whereas the Traveling Wall, unlike other memorials, teaches through a pictorial timeline covering the past 240 years. And whereas this memorial is a lesson on freedom to educate and inspire our future generations to gain a deeper understanding and appreciation of America's sacrifices for freedom on the battlefield and on the home front. And whereas through a pictorial timeline, the traveling wall is documenting and preserving the sacrifices America's men and women have made for more than 240 years to protect our nation's freedom. And whereas the traveling wall is a richly illustrated visual story of America's struggles for freedom and is a visual walk through our country's history and our fight to be free. And whereas the goal of this exhibit is to capture and preserve the spirit, the sacrifices, and the rich history of the American people by honoring those men and women in uniformed service who have served and are serving and protecting our way of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness here and abroad. And whereas the traveling wall is displayed and accompanied by the originators who present it to the public in an informative and interactive question and answer session. And whereas this exhibit is hosted by the Ridgewood, New Jersey American Legion Post 53 with major support from Rotary District 7490 and the Rotary Club of Ridgewood AM, and is open from 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. from Monday, November 12th through Sunday, November 18th, 2018, at the Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, in recognition of this patriotic event, does hereby encourage all residents, students, and others of Ridgewood to attend this event during the week of November 12th through November 18th, 2018, at the Bethlehem Lutheran Church at 155 Linwood Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey, in order to encourage patriotism and respect for those who wear uniforms on the battlefield and on the home front, and to recognize the many sacrifices which have been made throughout the history of the United States of America to maintain our country's freedom.
Thank you. It's indeed a very exciting for the Village of Ridgewood that we're having the traveling wall here. And not only are we going to read the proclamation, we want to present Commander Bob Pioli. We're going to come down and present you with a proclamation to honor this.
Stand.
We'll come to you.
You're coming down.
You're the commander. We're coming to you. Well, okay. Well, thank you, Commander. You know, I've always said you put on the best show in town, and you always bring to us celebration for our heroes with dignity, with the honor that they deserve, and we appreciate all your efforts in doing so. And this is, again, just, you know, once again, a small measure of our appreciation for the work that you do in honoring those who have given us the freedom that we so cherish and enjoy every day. So thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Commander.
Thanks very much, everybody. It is exciting, yeah. And what's exciting about it is that this is a traveling exhibit. It's a national traveling exhibit, and it'll be the first time that they've ever been in the Northeast. The first time it'll be in the state of New Jersey. So Ridgewood should be very proud that we're getting them first. And it's going to be a wonderful exhibit. Please bring your children and your family, tell all your friends, and we look forward to seeing you there. And on your way out, on that desk over there, I'll have some literature, so you can take it with you if you would, please. Thanks again.
And since we're here already, this is also very exciting. We're delighted to have Master Kim. He is the owner and head coach of Taekwondo All In here in Ridgewood, and he's here with a very impressive group of students wearing some very impressive medals. And I want to ask you to please join me in congratulating them on the recent performance at the 2018 National Taekwondo Championships in Salt Lake City, Utah. The school continues to have a tremendous amount of success in national competition. So these very impressive young athletes that we see here today have compiled a very impressive amount of medals. Big guy in the back. Get ready.
No. Yeah,
Perfect, yeah. Get you in trouble. All right. So the 2018 National Taekwondo Championships in Salt Lake City, Utah had over 5,500 athletes participating from all over the United States. And most of the students that you see here tonight received at least one medal, which again is very impressive out of 5,500 competing. They earned 8 gold medals, 8 silver medals, and 6 bronze medals. And these are indeed very impressive results, but most importantly, to their hard work, discipline, and courage, these students prove to themselves how well they can do. So we're very thankful to them for representing not only their school, but the community of Ridgewood in national competition. So please, a big hand for them right now. Thank you. And I believe one of the students has something that he wants to read.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councilman, and all the councilwomen, and all the other honorables and excellencies for having us today. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be standing up here and being recognized this evening. And my name is Tony, and I'm going to be the spokesperson for our team that we have today. For close to half a decade now, Taekwondo All-In has been attending state, national, and international level championships, and it's been giving athletes an opportunity to not only voice their passions in the sport, but also an opportunity to compete at a world-class level. And we even have an athlete up here today who is currently nationally ranked first. And the school has grown to become a recognized and well-known powerhouse, spreading its borders far beyond this town, with our partner schools located on the other side of the country. All of this started just a few minutes away in a little dojo called Taekwondo All in downtown Ridgewood. So over this past summer, to further test our skills, their potency, and their capacity, every member standing here today traveled to Salt Lake City, Utah, to participate in the 2018 USA National Taekwondo Championships. And before I share the phenomenal results, as you have, Mr. Mayor, it's important not to forget the process and the challenging path that all the members of the team had to take. The process of being able to participate and dominate in such an event has been difficult for both all the students and our coaches, with commitments and sacrifices for both parties. The athletes have trained almost every day for all of 2018, and some athletes training even up to 20 hours a week. And they additionally have learned how to devote both their time and energy to the sport, to school, and to any other activities they're involved in. And furthermore, our 2 coaches, Master Youngmin Kim and Master Sunggi Kim, have worked tirelessly to help us students improve. More than just our coaches, they have been our mentors, disciplining us and improving more than just our skills in the sport. It's only because of them too that we are able to stand here with such a tremendous team with affinity and rapport in such a short time. Eventually, after a full week of final training, practicing, and eventually competing in Utah, the team was able to amass a total of 8 gold medals, 8 silver medals, and 6 bronze medals in the largest Taekwondo national tournament to date. And moreover, some of our more experienced members and exemplary students even had an opportunity to compete in the team trials, a process taking place to choose the next national team members. And these unparalleled results could not have been possible without the help of our coaches, athletes, parents, and the town of Ridgewood to support us. I'm extremely proud to be a part of this growing force in the Ridgewood community. So once again, I want to thank you for your support and thank you for inviting us today. I guarantee you we'll only continue to improve and flourish, and we'll be back next year with better results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Master Kim, I have for you here a special certificate of recognition from the Village of Ridgewood for you and your students. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Come this way. Can Audrey, sorry. Right here, right next to her. Thank you. Must be one of the excellencies.
That was fun.
Who wants to stay? Imagine that.
Okay, with that, we'll open up public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Charles Riley, 448 North Maple Avenue. Mayor Hachi, Deputy Mayor Knudsen, and Councilman Seaton. I want to know whether you knew, when you voted to restore the public vote on the school budget, that the schools would be closed for their spring break on April 17, 2019, when the vote would occur under state law. I want to know whether you knew that a substantial number of parents and others will be out of town on that date of that election. I want to know whether you knew that that kind of election would be an unfair election to have when so many people are out of town, particularly those who are directly affected or could be directly affected by the vote on their children's education budget. It is no answer to say that absentee ballots will be available on that day. We all know that an absentee ballot provision is a burden as compared to being able to go down to the voting booth and vote yes or no. You have the job of ensuring that any public vote maximizes the participation of all those involved. When you schedule a vote or cause a vote to occur when a substantial number of people will not be in town, you are burdening a substantial number of potential voters, and in fact, creating an unfair election. That cannot be cured by an absentee vote. In fact, I think there's a substantial question that you're buying yourself a lawsuit and having a vote on election day when you know many voters will not be here, particularly those who have a direct interest in the result of that vote. If you did not know that that was the case, you should have known. Instead of rushing, as you did in the middle of summer, to go to a vote and ignoring the advice of the Board of Education to slow down, let's listen to the people in the public, you would have found out that any vote would be occurring on a day that's inappropriate for such a vote. You blew it. You should reconsider your vote as to the election next year in April 2019 and vote to rescind that decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Damiano, 274 South Broad Street. Just a couple things. As you all know, the building department has really come down hard on a lot of the businesses in town. I heard of a new incident last week. A business, Samba Bowls, actually was given a citation for putting balloons outside the door for an event. This is kind of retail 101. I mean, I myself do it. I had an event during the summer. I put balloons out. It's a temporary measure. When she questioned the member of the building department, gee, don't I get a warning? The answer she was given was no warnings issued for this. You have to go to our website and see what the ordinances are. I really think that's very unfair. You know, it's not an obstruction, it's temporary, and I think that type of thing is really, you know, creating such a turmoil throughout the CBD. So I'd like you all to take a look at it. Secondly, the kiosks, which I'm sure everyone will get accustomed to. But as I mentioned via email, a customer comes into town to get a cup of coffee for $1.25. They're now paying 75 cents to park the car. It should accept quarters. And I've been like a bank lately making change, because it also does not give change. A lot of people put $1 in and they expect to get a quarter back, which it doesn't. I don't know if that could be rectified. But there's a lot of unhappy people out there these days. Speaking of the aesthetics of town and all, I'd like to know what's going on with the poles where the meters once were, with all the arrows pointing to the kiosks, if that's a temporary situation, or if that's going to happen throughout town, because I really think they look awful. And lastly, and this was a new incident that I had never heard of, and I'm in town 18 years, customer comes into my store, and we got to talking, and I always greet them, ask them where they're from. She was from Suffern, and I said, oh, you're coming down here to shop? And she said, no, I use the Ridgewood train station each day to go to work into the city. So I said, well, you're parking on this side of the street in the lot, they're only 3-hour meters. And she said, oh yeah, but I use the app to, you know, recharge the meter. This has been going on for a year, so you know if one person is doing, other people are doing this. And, you know, nothing's being done to monitor the repeat parking. And it's a continual problem, and I think this is a perfect example. Let alone she's not from town, she's not even from our state, and she's parking in Ridgewood and taking advantage of the situation. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. I hope Mr. Riley and people watching this telecast, videocast, whatever, realize that there are no more absentee ballots in New Jersey. We all vote by mail, and many states have gone that way. So absentee ballots are not around anymore. You vote by mail, and it's a very easy system. I've done it. I love to go to the polls, but if you're not here, you vote by mail. And I realize that participation in the states that have only vote by mail, their participation is very high, and they're very informed. So that's really not an excuse these days. As Mr. Loving said at the Board of Ed meeting, some people are on vacation on Election Day in November. So should they, you know, they do vote. They vote by mail, as I did 2 years ago. But I'm here, first of all, to thank the village manager and Chris Rudishauser for the getting desnagging at King's. And we all really appreciate that. It's going to make a tremendous difference. And you're doing such a great, you're just making a great difference. And the second thing is I'm very happy to see the bond ordinance on the Zabriskie-Shedler house. You know that I've supported it for a long time. And it really bothers me when people come up to the mic who really have no idea what the heck they're talking about and talk about the money that's spent, the enormous money that's spent. I do agree with one thing that Mrs. Loving said, though. I think a unisex bathroom, these days, they're everywhere. And you could have, you know, gender neutral or whatever they're called. And I really think it does make a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of it, but I think she made a good suggestion. Anyway, just want to tell you that when we were at the Historic Preservation Awards last year, I know when the theme of the award was, "This place matters," and they talked about the beauty of rehabilitating structures, and I'm glad that you're doing this. I hope you can see more places to do it, because it is money well spent for the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I attended the Board of Education meeting this past Monday where the topic of the school board election date was discussed. The first thing that I would like to say is that I very much appreciate that the council adhered to the regulations of the Open Public Meetings Act and did not participate in that meeting because the notice was not given within the due amount of time. So I appreciate that you did not put yourselves in a position of being criticized or legal action being taken against you by participating in that meeting. I would like to report that I attended that meeting during the public comment section, and there were 25 people who spoke about the topic at hand. 22 of the 25 spoke in favor of having the election in April. There were 3 people who preferred to have the election in November. Again, 22 people of the 25 spoke in favor of having the election in April. Only 3 were opposed and believed that it should remain in November. I would also like to say, of the 3 people who spoke and preferred that the election be held in November, not one of them mentioned that they were going to be away in April, and that is why they preferred the election to be held in November. I believe it is pure speculation to suggest the number of people who might be away during the course of that week, unless the Board of Education and Mr. Riley has some data where they've collected from people who have indicated that they're going to be out of town. It is purely speculative to say that many people are going to be out of town. You don't know what the economy is going to be like. You don't know what the weather is going to be like. People may be staying in Ridgewood this year. Again, I would like to thank you for taking the opportunity or taking the necessary action to move the election to April. I believe that that is the best place for it. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello. Hello. My name is Hyunju Kwak. I'm at 278 Claremont Road. I want to make 4 points, and it has to do with preserving our right to vote on the school board election in April. I want to thank you very much for making what I think is the right decision. Number one, if you strip away all the politics and all the other noise, it's really about preserving the right to vote. And even if it was $1, I would fight for it. Whether it be, maybe I have the right to say it's $1.10, maybe it's 90 cents, whatever it is, I would want the ability to vote. The fact that it's a $110 million budget becomes more of a burden, a much more of a bigger discussion. So that's point number one. Number two, there was a suggestion that perhaps the Board of Ed is the only entity that is capable of deciding on a school budget of this size. That is absolutely false. There is no super qualification that makes, that you have to pass in order to be on the Board of Ed. You are voted on the board to be a member of the Board of Ed, just as you are. You are driven by, if you're willing, have a passion and a time commitment. And I thank the Board of Ed for doing it, and I thank the Village Council for doing it, but there's nothing that says that only the Board of Ed can decide. And as a taxpayer, as a U.S. citizen, as a resident of this community, and as part of, you know, as I want to be part of the dialogue. I should have the right to vote, and that can only happen in April. So thank you for making that happen. Number three, when it was decided at this, in the Village Hall to move it from November to April, that was done in a bona fide process. It was not done in some suggestion. You know, it was absolutely a bona fide, legitimate process. And I want to make that very clear. There was a robust discussion that was held, highly well attended. So I just want to take that off the table. And the last thing, this whole vote by mail, I think, is very valid. It does not invalidate the voting process at all. And this doomsday scenario of you know, of perhaps the budget vote not passing, that to me is not the right discussion. It's about preserving people's ability to have a dialogue about it, and you can only have a dialogue when you have a vote. That ensures that there's a dialogue. So, thank you very much, and I hope the voting does remain in place in April. Thank you.
Thank you. That's, sir, just one time per session. Anybody else? Okay, since there are some questions that were posed before I close, move on to the rest of the agenda, I just want to answer some of the questions that were posed by the members of the public. I'll start in the order as they were presented. So did we know whether the date, changing the election to April, would have fallen on the date? As we stated before, and I stated very clearly at the time that I voted, this is not about what is convenient. This is not about what is going to bring out the votes. It is a fundamental right of having people, giving people the right to vote on the budget. That is what this is all about. Nothing else. To say that the day is inappropriate, you know, what's inappropriate is not to listen to the people. To assume that we somehow rushed into this decision. We've had discussions individually, whether it's out in the supermarket, whether it's by phone, people stopping you anywhere that we went, there was always that discussion. The date of May 31st, the moratorium on changing the elections passed, and there was no discussion mentioned. There was no robust discussion by the Board of Ed schedule at any point in time. We had these discussions with a lot of members of the public. A lot more people than the ones that showed up, the 22 that showed up in favor of the April budget vote on Monday night. So this was not rushed. This was not out of thin air. We had these discussions. It's inappropriate to say that we didn't. It's inappropriate not to listen to the people. You saw it, 22-3, people in favor of having a budget vote. What's inappropriate is to deny the voters that right. That's inappropriate. And even more inappropriate is to assume that voters are somehow too stupid to vote on the budget because they don't have the expertise of going line by line on a school budget. It's about a fundamental right of people to vote. That is what it's all about, nothing else. There were some questions about the kiosks in the downtown. And I know that we've exchanged emails, and I know that we've spoken about some of the complaints that have come in. One of the things that we're doing immediately, and this will go into effect hopefully by Monday, is to allow the kiosks to function as the old meters did. So when you put a quarter, well, now you get for a quarter, you get 20 cents, as opposed to in the past you were getting 30 cents. So it will give the meters, the kiosk, the ability to accept coins. So you can put it in for a quarter for 20 minutes, as we did with the parking meters. It does not change, however, Park Mobile. Park Mobile has always been minimum of an hour, and you can do it in only in hourly increments. The poles where the old meters used to be, those for the time being will remain because they are a very convenient place for us to put the signs, letting people know where the kiosks are. We understand that there's a learning curve, and this will go, you know, for hopefully a lot smoother than it's been so far. I think we're getting through some of these kinks very quickly. But the idea is that once the kiosks go into effect throughout the downtown, that we won't need to have the poles anymore with the signs indicating where they are. Maybe we come up with something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. You know, you mentioned there was this person from New York that was coming and parking in the train station and was doing the repeat parking with the mobile app. You know, one of the biggest surprises that I've received in terms of the feedback from the people who have complaints against the kiosk have been from employees of North Broad Street complaining that they can no longer switch the cars from one space to the other, and now they have to find a space to park in an employee lot. Again, we've been talking about this for a very long time. I think you've mentioned it many times, Mr. Damiano, that you constantly see employees walking out and feeding the meter or moving their cars, playing musical chairs with the spots. Because one of the other benefits of the kiosk is also that it not only does it allow an easier and more efficient way to enforce with the license plate readers, but it also, the enforcement is based on the zones, not the space. So once you have hit the 3-hour limit on that zone, doesn't matter which space you're using on the street, it's all in the same zone. So that's going to eliminate these musical chairs that we've seen over many years of employees playing around with the parking spots. So I think, and already, I think we're seeing some of the benefits. I frequent some of the restaurants on North Broad Street, and I'm seeing already, spaces that are, one or two that are empty where there weren't before. So I think that's a positive. And that was it in terms of the questions, but thank you.
I have two things. I just want to note that the comments about the election, that a statement was made about the importance of public participation and that being a concern about a vacation. But again, I want to highlight that comment, the importance of public participation in a vote. I have to remind everyone that presently there is zero participation in a budget vote because it's not accessible to the public at this point until we moved it to April. So I think that's an important distinction about public participation in a vote. I look forward to that. And Ellie Gruber, I just wanted to point out that you didn't make mention the League of Women Voters Luncheon, that Sheila Oliver spoke so eloquently about her passion for preserving historic sites and buildings all throughout the state of New Jersey. She was absolutely wonderful, kindred spirit, and it was amazing, and I felt really more confident after hearing her speak about the Shedler property than ever before, and I was proud to be there, and that she's our Lieutenant Governor was really something. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. We'll move on to the village manager's report.
Okay, Ridgewood Water is hosting a series of community open houses to provide the public with an opportunity to learn more about Ridgewood Water's regular maintenance, system upgrades, and compliance with new and evolving regulations for drinking water. There's no formal presentation. Professional staff and technical experts will be available to speak one-on-one with participants on water quality matters of interest or any other matters, such as water usage at your home related to Ridgewood Water. 2 community open houses have been held so far. Last week, one in Midland Park and one in Wyckoff. We will host an open house in the Annie Zuzi Youth Center tomorrow evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and then in the Glen Rockborough Hall on October 15th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Public participation in these open houses is encouraged, and I know that everyone who has attended the open houses has learned something new. Ridgewood Water and the League of Women Voters are sponsoring a water forum on October 17th at 7:30 p.m. in the Ridgewood Library Auditorium. The featured speaker will be Debbie Manns, Deputy Director of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. The leaf placement schedule begins next week in Yard Waste Area A on October 16th. A postcard, which looks like this, yellow, you can put it on your bulletin board, on your refrigerator, on your cabinet door, whatever you want, has been mailed to all homes in Ridgewood. It lists the 2018 leaf season placement schedule for your area. Please remember that you may only place leaves along the curb line during your leaf placement dates. Once your street has been picked up, a picture is taken with a date and time stamp. Please do not put your leaves out after the final date for placement for your area, or you may receive a summons. The next time you can put it out is the following placement dates. If you have a landscaper, please make them aware of this leaf pickup schedule, and this schedule, as well as any updates or changes to the schedule based on weather conditions or possible equipment conditions, could be found on our website, www.ridgewoodnj.net. Congratulations goes out to the Ridgewood Fire Department as they have been awarded 6 sets of ballistic vests and helmets for their trained members through the Bergen County Office of Emergency Management. All of our fire department personnel have been trained in active shooter, and this award is based on them having this training. The village of Ridgewood was one of only 4 municipalities in Bergen County that was awarded this equipment. Fire Prevention Week is this week. I attended the fire prevention luncheon today at the firehouse along with Deputy Mayor Knutson and Councilman Seaton, and it was held for all school principals after fire drills at each of the schools. George Washington Middle School got everyone out of the school during the fire drill faster than any of the other schools. As a reminder, the fire department open house will be held on October 21st from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the firehouse. It's a great day to bring the family and see the firehouse, and they do different drills and things like that. Final voter registration for the November 6th general election is October 16th. Registration will take place in the village clerk's office from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on that day, and then from 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the library lobby. This is for those who have recently moved to Ridgewood or those who have moved within Ridgewood, as you may have a change in your polling location. Mayor Hache, I'll just briefly touch on this, and maybe you want to speak a little more. Mayor Hache will begin his Meet the Mayor beginning this coming Saturday, October 13th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the caucus room on the fourth floor of Village Hall. Please call the village clerk's office to make an appointment. That's it.
Thank you. Council reports. Councilman Seaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Shade Tree Commission met yesterday, and I'm happy to say there's a lot of really, really exciting stuff that I'm going to have to report, but it's going to have to wait until next time because we're finalizing some of the numbers to make sure that we get everything straight and say it right. But I could say that the elm tree is in. That's going to replace the sycamore tree that was taken down at Graydon Pool. And we got a report of an assessment of our trees from one of our consultant that has been working with the Shade Tree Commission, and that will be included in a future presentation of the Village Council when the Shade Tree Commission comes up with their plan finally to address the tree well issue downtown and what we can do to make our trees in the central business district survive and thrive in that environment to provide a nice shaded canopy that people could walk under and enjoy the shops and dining experience that Ridgewood has to offer. But again, that'll all be part of a future report. I can say that in reviewing the report initially, a lot of the trees are in very bad shape. So it's something that's really going to need to be addressed, and we have a plan to address it. So that's all I have for right now. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor.
Great, thank you. So just as a reminder, this weekend is Access Ridgewood 2018. Friday, October 12th, all the schools, village schools, will be offering films and discussion about unique abilities, special gifts, and special needs. Senior programming, 10 to 11:30 Friday, October 12th, is a Village Hall Community Center, Aging Smartly. Family fun with Marsha Matthews and Jester Jim, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Friday evening in the library auditorium. And that's pizza and ice cream with juggling and crafts and lots of antics. So join us there. Saturday, October 13th is the family concert from 10:30 until 11 a.m. in the library auditorium again. Community fair, Village Hall courtyard following immediately. Right after that, live music and dance in the library auditorium, and the highlight of the weekend is the fashion show in the library auditorium from 1:30 to 2. I'm going to try and get this posted on the village website. Maybe we get this whole flyer in a PDF and then maybe an image. And then on Sunday, on Saturday, we have food and music in the Village Hall courtyard right after the fashion show, and soccer, RSA, BF, MS, small field, Cheers Ridgewood Soccer and Association's very special players and Ridgewood High School girls soccer team take on Ridgewood's police and fire departments, firefighters. Police cars and fire equipment will be on site, hands-on, tactile, which is always fun. And Sunday, October 14th, is the Interfaith Service Friends to Friends Community Church at 303 Prospect. And all are welcome to a special interfaith service among a congregation comprised primarily of young adults with developmental disabilities. So it's a really, really big weekend, and this is part of our Community Access Network. This committee meets monthly and works all year long to put this program together, among other things. But it's a really wonderful event, fun-filled weekend, and exciting, especially for the youngsters. Let's see. And then Ridgewood Arts Council. So Ridgewood Arts Council is working on a couple of initiatives. One is future looking. They're looking at the garage, the future Hudson Street garage, for that big long art banner, what kind of installation they might consider in that area for that art piece, which is pretty exciting. So they're starting to plan, look ahead and plan for that. They're also looking to find, and Heather's helping us with this, find some old bike racks that maybe we have hidden somewhere in the village that are old and rusted. We have a metal worker that's going to do some repair work, clean, scrape, and then paint them fun and exciting colors and put them all throughout the village wherever we need them. So I know, I believe last year there was an effort to find some more creative sculpture type bike racks, but they were very expensive, customized. So this is an opportunity to implement some art initiatives and utilizing bike racks as utility. So that's one exciting thing. The other I have Audrey's letter here. We're also working on empty storefront initiative, and we've drafted a letter to send out to shop building owners, and hopefully we'll be working with the CBD Advisory Committee. We'll reach out to Councilman Walsh for the Chamber of Commerce and Ridgewood Guild to see if we could work collaboratively to put together a list of empty storefronts and do an outreach to those storefronts that allow us to register them and have an artist go in and just do an installation so that it allows for a more vibrant downtown and visual interest. We've also had a discussion about a holiday window contest, and so they're really excited about that. We're hoping to have the council's blessing. They would like to have the council's blessing because they're hoping that the council will be the judges, which could be fun. And this will foster, again, some excitement, more foot traffic, and an interest. And we'd have a special category for the empty storefronts so that that would encourage, again, building owners to participate. And we believe that that kind of foot traffic and visual interest will help keep the downtown vibrant, even with some down businesses right now. And finally, Planning Board meets Tuesday evening, 7:30 right here, and that's it. I'm good.
Thank you. Councilwoman Walsh?
So we had our Chamber of Commerce meeting this morning, actually, and the topic did come up about the kiosks and Park Mobile. So, you know, again, I expressed to them that the kiosks are new. There's a learning curve. This is all part of the process. And the better the kiosks work, the more kiosks, perhaps, we will have throughout the village so that we can track how many people are parking, the hours that they're parking, all of the benefits of using a kiosk in determining where we need the parking and the hours of the parking. So they actually were very grateful that the kiosk is there, that it's working. They also understood that there are some, you know, glitches in the process. Park Mobile obviously is still working. We wanted to just remind everybody that if you don't go to the kiosk, you can certainly still use your Park Mobile. So, you know, some individuals had expressed that, you know, they get out of their car, they don't want to have to run up to the end of the street, they could still use the Park Mobile. But one individual wanted to know if there was the possibility that we could discuss with Park Mobile, perhaps doing half-hour increments, so that somebody that is coming just to get a cup of coffee that uses Park Mobile can just put a 30-minute in. Maybe, you know, something we can look at with Park Mobile. Ladies' Night Out was very successful. They had between 25 and 30 women that went from the west side to the east side. Ridgewood Sale Days, very successful as well. So, you know, the vibrancy in the CBD is something that we're all very happy about, and that it's moving in the right direction. Restaurant Week is going to be in January, and some of the restaurants are wondering if there could possibly be a third week in Restaurant Week, because last year it was very successful, and you know, it comes right after the holidays, so it kind of, sometimes people, you know, they've been celebrating and eating and doing everything, so maybe they're not ready to go back to the restaurant so quick after the first of the year, but so that's something that was a topic of conversation. November 30th is going to be downtown for the holidays, so it's a little, the date's a little strange because it's always the second Friday after Thanksgiving, and since Thanksgiving's a little earlier, it's still in November, so just we want to make sure that everybody mark their calendars for November 30th. And I guess CBDAC talked about the plastic bag challenge with people using plastic bags still, and the conversation went to, well, what are the merchants supposed to do then if they're not using the plastic bags? Do they have to go to a paper bag? Is that going to be costly for them? So I don't know if you guys were going to continue that conversation at CBDAC, but so that's obviously something that they just wanted us to keep on our agenda, or just something to think about. And then obviously Walktoberfest, Jeannie Johnson's done a great job organizing Walktoberfest, and they just wanted us to remind everybody to walk into Ridgewood and shop. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Boyd?
Thank you, Mayor. No committee reports this week. However, Community Center Advisory Committee and CSAC are meeting next week. We did want to thank Heather and Dylan for installing a projector in the Community Center meeting room, the Annie Zuzi room. Much needed and much appreciated, so thank you very much.
Okay, and I just have a couple of things to update. CBDAC meets tomorrow here at 8:30 in the Garden Room. We will continue the discussion. The last meeting we had a presentation regarding the single-use plastic bags. The more we discussed, it really seems like it's narrowed down to one particular establishment in town that's creating the bulk of the problem in terms of their use and the quantity, the volume of the use. So we'll continue that discussion and see how we can come up with ways that we can address it collectively. Had a discussion with some of our residents at Ridgecrest, and there was a concern that the senior bus, which is the bus that allows them to go to the grocery store to buy groceries, hopefully they're using reusable bags, the bus has not been very reliable. It's broken down a few times. We don't have money in the budget for such a vehicle for this year, obviously. But I reached out to the county. The county has a significant amount of resources. They have a fleet of vehicles that they can lend to us. It's not a gift. We're not buying it from the county. But they have agreed to let us use a vehicle that we can use to help our seniors. Right now it's a backup vehicle because the type of vehicle that we use is different than what they have available. But they're confident that in the next few weeks, the type of vehicle that we need, the ones that our seniors are used to using, will become available, and then we'll have that for their use. So I was very happy and very grateful to the county for their help in doing so. Just a reminder to everyone, October 18, it will be the Oktoberfest celebration that's being hosted by Park West Tavern in both the tavern and Park West Loft upstairs. All proceeds of the Oktoberfest celebration will go to the Grasso family. So it's a great cause, and again, very thankful for Park West Tavern for being so generous in doing so. And with that, we'll move to resolutions.
Okay, this is for Ridgewood Water. We do not have any ordinances. Resolutions, the following resolutions, number 18-296 through 18-299 are to be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council. They will be read by title only. Award contract, car granulated activated carbon treatment system. Award contract under state contract, safety lighting for Ford F-350. Authorized change order number 1, design and construction administration of granular activated carbon treatment system. And then authorized change order number 2, distribution improvements and Lakeview extension study. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3674.
Second.
Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. So ordered. Would the clerk please read ordinance 3674 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-1, Definitions, and Section 265-29, Parking Meter Zone Designated.
I move that ordinance 3674 be adopted on first reading and October 24th, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3675.
Second.
Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. So ordered. Would the clerk please read ordinance 3675 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 145 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood Fees at Section 145-6, enumeration of fees relating to code chapters.
I move that ordinance 3675 be adopted on first reading and that October 24th, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
So moved.
I need a
second.
Okay. Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3676.
Second.
Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3676 by title?
A bond ordinance providing a supplemental appropriation of $400,000 for Phase 2 improvements to the Zabriskie Shetler House in and by the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $380,000 bonds or notes of the village to finance part of the cost thereof.
I move that ordinance 3676 be adopted on first reading and on October 24th, 2018, be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
I'm all for preserving our heritage. However, I don't want to do it on the backs of our residents. I still don't think we have a comprehensive plan as to how this is going to get paid for other than our residents, so my vote is no.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the first reading of ordinance 3677.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3677 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-58, Schedule 8 through Streets.
I move that ordinance 3677 be adopted on first reading and that November 28, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the first reading of ordinance 3678.
So moved.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3678 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-59, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections, and at Section 265-65, Schedule 15, Parking Prohibited at all times.
I move that ordinance 3678 be adopted on first reading and that November 28th, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the first reading of ordinance 3679.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3679 by title?
An ordinance to fix salaries, wages, and other compensation and to establish the employee agreement of certain non-union officers and employees of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, and State of New Jersey for the year 2018.
I move that ordinance 3679 be adopted on first reading and that November 28, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the first reading of ordinance 3680.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh. Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3680 by title?
An ordinance to fix salaries, wages, and other compensation of non-union employees of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, and State of New Jersey for the year 2018.
I move that ordinance 3680 be adopted on first reading and that November 28, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the first reading of ordinance 3681.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3681 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 105 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood Animals at Section 105-18, Poultry and Fowl.
I move that ordinance 3681 be adopted on first reading and that November 28th, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the first reading of ordinance 3682.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3682 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 260 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Trees and Shrubs.
I move that ordinance 3682 be adopted on first reading and that November 28, 2018 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes, I move the clerk read ordinance 3672 by title on second reading that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Newton.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Hache.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3672?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 3, Article 8 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood entitled Residency Requirements.
The public hearing is now open.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Rather than have the public hearing opened and closed without any comments, in light of a rather negative comment about this ordinance that was posted on social media today by someone who ran for council twice, I would appreciate if somebody on the council could explain what this is all about, so to put residents at ease that this is not cronyism at its worst. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm happy to explain this. So, in 2014 and 2015, the former council took up removing the residency preference or residency requirement from our ordinances for civilian titles only. And in doing so, they took away an important piece of what was always an opportunity when all candidates are qualified that allowed the preference to go to a village resident. That was only for civilian titles. Over the years, there was a determination. At the time I voted against it, Councilman Seaton voted against that because we thought it was an important opportunity to afford employment to our own residents as long as everyone met the criteria and met all qualifications. So in any event, what we're doing right now is reinstating that residency preference. Again, this is for civilian titles. Anyone applying for any position that's posted, I guess they're civil service titles, the criteria is created, actually the criteria is developed by civil service, would that be correct? So the criteria for any position is developed by civil service and posted accordingly, and therefore any applicant would have to meet the qualifications for that job. So if all candidates met the qualification, then again, that would just merely defer to a Ridgewood resident as preference. Importantly, the state of New Jersey has, I think the act is New Jersey First Act, and because of that legislation, I believe that was either 2010 or 2011 approximately, that state law requires all government agencies throughout the state of New Jersey, whether they're state, county, or municipal, they must hire only New Jersey residents. So we're already limited to our outreach to New Jersey residents, and this just changes our tier. Right now, we could hire throughout the state, and the second tier is municipality, Bergen County, well, it would be Ridgewood, Bergen County, and then the state. So in absence of that particular tier of municipality, county, state, we would be statewide, which is what we are now on civilian positions. And most of these positions are, what would we say, clerk, typist. You want to go through a couple of the types of...
Some of them are keyboard and clerk, laborer, I'm trying to remember, truck driver, I think, is it's a non-competitive position, is what it is. So it's an entry-level position.
So Heather, I have a...
I just want to finish my thought.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
So these are jobs that, often we find that individuals who their kids are full-time, they're in school and they're, want to return to the workforce, they want to stay more local, but certainly they're qualified, our own residents. I would have to think that our residents, Ridgewood residents, are qualified to handle many jobs within the village. And so, if there's a situation where we cannot find a qualified candidate, and that's qualified, the qualifications are, the criteria is developed by civil service. We are a civil service community. The New Jersey State Department of Personnel manages that. So that criteria is outlined by civil service. And I think the unfortunate comment, and if I recall, it was cronyism at its worst, and it'll be interesting to see which council cronies get the jobs. And I think it was just inappropriate, it was unfortunate, and it was unnecessary, and I really would wish somebody would remove it, but thank you.
So just as a point of clarification, the required residency says all officers and employees, so I'm not sure what does officer mean? Does that mean like a village manager? Does it mean?
It would mean that, but again, it says if qualified candidates are not found from residents, then it gives the criteria to go to Bergen County and then contiguous counties and then the state of New Jersey.
So it means all, let's say, all senior positions in Village Hall, so it would mean village manager, it could mean head of the water utility, it could
Sure.
mean,
It
we
would-
would look at those those people.
Some of them are statutory positions, such as CFO or village clerk or tax assessor. So in that case, you need to have the criteria established by statute. So there may or may not be a resident who has those qualifications. But for other positions, even director of departments, but again, you're judging it with all other things being equal. So if a person who was a non-resident was vying for a department director position and had much more experience or other credentials that were needed for that position that the resident did not have, it doesn't preclude the village from hiring the non-resident, because then everything is not equal. But if everyone had the same experience, had the same credentials, then what it would say is that the resident has the preference and the resident should be hired.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Just to be clear, this is not about lowering the bar, just to fit the qualifications of a resident. If we have folks who are non-residents that are more qualified, obviously, but if it's all being equal, that becomes a tiebreaker.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
So Heather, I just have a couple of
Okay.
questions on this ordinance as well. So for these positions, are there going to be specific role profiles that are going to have listed the criteria? So in the event that somebody challenges it, where is it going to fall back to?
Well, civil service has specifications for each job. So they have requirements for education, requirements for experience, so they have to meet those criteria in order to be qualified.
So for all of our positions, we have a profile that matches civil service for that, so that we don't
We
get...
use civil service specs as our profile.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know exactly what a profile is, but our specs for those positions are what we use for what's necessary for each job.
So the civil service, though, is the minimum qualification?
Correct.
We can amend it to add additional?
Not in a competitive position. In a competitive position, anyone who meets the minimum qualifications would be qualified for the position.
So I guess the question I'm asking is, what's going to be, other than the residency requirement, is the residency requirements going to be the only tiebreaker? If you have, so civil
No,
service says,
but
let's just
everyone
say
would
there's
have to
three
be-
criteria, and they say, college graduate, minimum 5 years experience, knowledgeable about something.
Right, sure.
So if 2 candidates or 5 candidates or 7 candidates all have that, it's always going to go to the Ridgewood resident
Unless
job.
there's someone who has more. Like if there's someone who has 10 years experience and 3...
But if that's not the minimum requirement, though.
But the point is that then things are not equal. So basically the residency requirement is saying all things being equal, you would choose the resident. If someone had more experience, more credentials, then that would not make it equal. That person would be higher, and that person, if they were a non-resident, could be hired.
So I think that would come into play if you said, well, somebody would 5 to 10 years experience in job X. So now a Ridgewood resident has 5 years, but somebody else comes in has 10 years, then that's not equal. So now that person is more qualified. So I think importantly is that the residency preference for Ridgewood residents was part of the village code for a very, very, very long time. The amazing part of this is the suggestion that somehow in a municipality of 26,000 residents, of one of the most affluent, educated municipalities in the state, that we wouldn't be able to fill jobs out of our pool of, I know you're not saying that, but.
Not my concern, but the devil's always in the details. So if and when it comes up, we need to make sure that that it's always rock solid in terms of if 7 people apply for one job and they all have the identical credentials, which could happen, that they don't cry foul, that that it went to why did I waste my time if you were going to pick the Ridgewood resident
And I
person
think
anyhow?
that that's all
You know,
part of civil service, and that's where
Yeah.
that's all played out. And, I think, again, importantly, that most civil service communities maintain a residency preference for their civilian positions, and, there's always going to be someone more qualified for a position. I think that that's really an important note to all of this. So, the fact that the state of New Jersey says, well, you can only hire within the state, does that, it's almost the same situation, because then could somebody from New York then argue, well, I'm more qualified, so I deserve that position, or somebody from on the other side of the earth can, so you could just go down this, this path, forever. But I think, like I said, this was something that came up in 2015, and I think it was unfortunate, and I think it's something good that we're putting back into place.
I actually think the residency has been in place since civil service has been in Ridgewood.
I wasn't sure, but, and it's like 1920?
That, I don't know the
1930?
date, but
Yeah.
a very long time.
It's a long time, yeah.
Thank you. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Newton,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Hache.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3672 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Newton,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Hache.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3673?
I need you to say the whole first
You gotta
part.
read the whole.
Oh, sorry. Oh. So ordinance 3673 was introduced by the village council on September 26, 2018. This ordinance must obtain input from the planning board due to the fact that it also amends zoning. Due to the fact that the planning board will be meeting on October 16, 2018 to discuss this ordinance, the public hearing on ordinance 3673 will be continued to a special public meeting to be held on October 24, 2018. Anyone wishing to comment on this ordinance this evening may do so, since the public hearing was advertised for tonight. In addition, anyone may comment on this ordinance at the October 24, 2018 continued public hearing. I move the clerk read ordinance 3673 by title on second reading, and at the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Okay. Newton,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Hache.
Yes. The public hearing is now open.
I just need to read the title, sorry. An ordinance to amend Chapter 244 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood entitled Smoking to create a new Article 4 entitled Tobacco Shops, Cannabis Shops, and Electronic Vapor Substance Inhalation Shops.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Now, be continued.
No, it's
No,
continued.
I move the public hearing be on ordinance, hearing be on ordinance 3673 be continued to October 24, 2018.
Second.
Newton,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Hache.
Yes.
Okay, the following resolutions numbered 18-300 through 18-312, with the exception of 18-311, which will be removed from the consent agenda, are to be considered with one vote by the village council. They will be read by title only. Award contract under state contract, portable radio, police department. Award contract under state contract, purchase of ammunition, police department. Award contract under Houston Galveston Area Council cooperative purchasing contract, 2019 heavy-duty rescue fire truck. Award contract under county contract, hook lift and accessories for chipper truck. Declare property surplus. Accept 2017 annual audit report. Accept 2017 corrective action plan. Approve submission of 2019 NJDOT paving grant application Spring Avenue. Approve submission of 2019 NJDOT paving grant application Franklin Avenue streetscape. Authorize execution of Bergen County open space grant for the Maple Park turf field. Authorize preparation of flood plan for Ridgewood. Request assistance from Bergen County for Franklin Avenue intersection traffic control device improvements. Actually, that one is going to be on October 24th as well. So we're going to move that till there.
You pulling that one?
312.
Okay.
Okay, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Newton?
So wait, 18,312 was removed?
Yeah, because it actually, I think it's a duplicate of your original for the grant approval.
Oh, the original thing.
Well,
Okay, got it. Okay,
And so we're going to do it on the 24th.
okay, so yes, I'm sorry.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voight?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Hache?
No,
Yes.
she was-
Okay, so now I have 18-311, which I'll read in full. Whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood has adopted regulations for the acceptance of contributions, gifts, and donations that are made by individuals and/or employees, which regulations have been codified in Chapter 127 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood. And whereas Celeste Walsh is an ambassador Girl Scout in Troop 61326 in Ridgewood and has completed her Gold Award project, water bottle refilling station, and sustainable reuse project. And whereas the project included community awareness on the benefits of using reusable water bottles as opposed to single-use bottles throughout our village parks, reducing waste, promoting a sustainable community, and decreasing costs on the village's recycle program. And whereas Celeste was able to promote this project and collect donations from residents, friends, and businesses towards the purchase of a refilling station for the village. And whereas the refilling station will complement the existing stations throughout the village and will promote the use of refillable water bottles. And whereas Celeste Walsh gratefully thanks and acknowledges all who assisted with her project, especially Nancy Bigos and the League of Women Voters Water Committee, and hereby donates the funds towards the purchase of an additional refilling station by the Parks and Recreation Department. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the gift of water refilling station extended by Ambassador Girl Scout Celeste Walsh of Troop 61326 is hereby accepted. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Okay, so it was Councilman Seaton and then Councilman Voight, is that correct?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, hold
uh-huh.
on 1 second. Okay. Newton,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
So I'm going to have to abstain from this, actually, I have to recuse from this vote, as I am the leader of Troop 61326, and I actually write the check from the troop account that comes to the village, so I need to recuse myself,
okay.
just to be on the safe side.
And Hache,
Yes.
okay. Resolution 18-313. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood Water Department owns and operates a public regional water system that provides potable water to the Village of Ridgewood, boroughs of Glen Rock and Midland Park, and the Township of Wyckoff. The Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood is the governing authority for the Ridgewood Water Utility and is empowered to make purchases and commit funds on behalf of the water utility. And whereas the water utility owns numerous properties located in all municipalities which are part of its service area. It owns testing and monitoring facilities which are located in the Wharton Dyke section of Midland Park along Godwin Avenue in a floodplain. Its main administrative offices are located at Ridgewood Village Hall. Its main engineering and mapping offices are located at the Glen Avenue facility in Ridgewood. There are numerous wells, pump stations, and equipment locations throughout the service area as well. And whereas as the utility's continuous commitment is to operate in a more efficient and economical manner, the concept of consolidation of Ridgewood Water's administrative and operating functions in the same facility has long been a goal of the utility. The purpose of bringing the main utility offices out of a floodplain in Midland Park and under the same roof as the administrative offices, engineering, mapping, and emergency response operation can only be seen as a positive economically and for customer benefit. Whereas the consolidation of utility departments in the same facility will promote several benefits to the ratepayers of the water utility. It will conveniently place administrative and operational offices in the same building for access for ratepayers. This will provide ratepayers access to a single location to have their issues, concerns, and questions addressed. It will decrease the response time in getting information of any type from the utility. It will significantly improve the incident and emergency response time because the entire utility emergency response team will be located in the same facility. And whereas the opportunity to locate the administrative and operational offices of the water utility in the same location recently developed with the listing of the Ridgewood Elks Club for sale. The Elks Club property with an address of 111 North Maple Avenue in the village is located directly adjacent to the southerly side of the Ridgewood Library, which library is directly adjacent to the Ridgewood Village Hall. The lot area is .367 acres, and it is not located in a floodplain. It has limited parking on site, but is attached to the Veterans Field West parking lot. It is the only and last property that is adjacent to any village properties in the area of Village Hall that has been marketed for sale, and this will be the only opportunity that will be for sale for some time. And whereas the Village Council, on behalf of the water utility, entered into negotiations with representatives of the Elks Club for the purchase of the Elks Club property. In March of 2017, the property was appraised by an appraiser hired by the village for $900,000. The Village Council sees the opportunity of obtaining an adjacent property to the other village facilities as one that will not happen again in the future. In negotiations with the Elks Club, the parties were able to agree to a price of $1,100,000. In consideration of the cost and expense involved in a condemnation proceeding, the value of the property at its highest and best use, which is the standard for an eminent domain purchase, may warrant a value far greater than the agreed upon price. And whereas in consideration of the above, the Village Council has decided to authorize the purchase of the Elks Club property for $1,100,000 to be paid through the Ridgewood Water Utility. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, that the mayor and the village clerk are hereby authorized to enter into a contract for the purchase of 111 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey, commonly known as the Elks Club, for $1,100,000 on the behalf of and by the Ridgewood Water Utility. And they are further authorized to execute the purchase and sale agreement that may be negotiated by the parties with the advice and consent of the village attorney. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Newton?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes, I'd just like to mention, though, I've really gone back and forth with this one, and there's been several options that were presented to us. And not going with this option, we would be pretty much left with renovating the structure that we have in Midland Park. It is in a floodplain, and the property was underwater this April. The building's 100 years old from what I've been told, and the last time it was renovated was 1940. So I have a friend in the audience who really doesn't like change orders, and if we go ahead and try and renovate this building, it is going to be a change order generator. The price to do so, that we've been told, is relatively close to purchasing this property and consolidating Ridgewood Water. If we go ahead and renovate the other property in Midland Park, it's just going to have the same inefficiencies built in. We're going to have to renovate the property over at Glen Avenue because we're going to have to keep people there. And again, traveling and inefficiencies will still be present going forward. So given all the options and consideration that has gone into this, I think it's important. It brings the water department out of the floodplain. It puts the control system out of the floodplain, which is important. And it's going to have, you have to spend, the truth of the matter is you have to spend the money one way or the other. So you're either renovating a 100-year-old building in a floodplain, and you couldn't knock the building down because it's in a floodplain, so if you got rid of it, it would be gone. And again, I've gone back and forth with this, but given all the options, I am voting yes.
Okay. Roy?
I have the utmost respect for the people who run the water utility. I think they do a great job. The problem the water utility has right now is it has so much stuff on its plate from a capital improvement standpoint. This is just another thing added on to some very expensive items. I'm going to go through some of these items. The property was valued, first of all, at $900,000. We're spending $1.1 million, $200,000 over the assessed value. The original estimate was in the $1.5 to $1.6 million range for upgrading this property, and that was made a few months ago. The estimate then went to $2.5 to $2.7 million. The revised estimate is now $4 million to upgrade this particular property. So in other words, the costs keep going higher and higher each time we examine it. That concerns me. Second issue, we're in litigation with surrounding towns regarding water rates, which may cost the water department several millions of dollars. It's an unknown. We don't know how that's going to play out, and to have that money in abeyance, I think, is probably wise. The third issue relates to PFOA and PFOS contamination with our water. This issue, unfortunately, has raised its ugly head, and it's going to cost the Ridgewood Water Department tens of millions of dollars, if not more, to filter our water. There was an article in the Record today that talked about $3 million for each $1 million or 1 million gallons of water per day. So if we're producing 10 million gallons, which is about the average, It's going to cost us about $30 million just to treat the PFOA. That's a huge number. The fourth issue is we have a 100-year-old infrastructure that is in dire need of replacing. That includes pipes and pumps. That should probably take precedence over buying a building. Fifth issue is we have several wells that are offline. These created water restrictions in our village. The money could be better spent getting these wells back online. As a matter of fact, one of the resolutions is regarding that, and I'm certainly in favor of getting wells back online and getting more water for our residents. The sixth issue is we have been provided with a worst-case estimate of about $150,000 to renovate the vacated space in Village Hall. This has not been factored into the analysis, so you might as well add another $150,000 on top of that. So at the end of last year, the Water Department had about $11 million in short-term assets on its balance sheet. We have exposures to more important issues. We have exposures to capital improvements well in excess of $11 million. So our paying another $4 million, another $2 million from a bond ordinance, it just doesn't make sense to me. You know, I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to do our best to control costs. This is unfortunately, I think it's a nice to have. I don't think it's a need to have. Yes, we do need to make upgrades to some of the areas, including the SCADA system and probably some upgrades to bathroom facilities at one of the areas, but that certainly is not going to cost us $4 million. So my vote is no.
Walsh?
So I'm going to agree that I have the utmost respect for the Water Department employees, and they were gracious enough to take the entire council on a tour of all of the facilities, so we had a true understanding of the Water Department and why they wanted to consolidate. And I don't think there is an argument for consolidating. The challenge that I have had since the beginning of this process, as the process went on, and we just had them in closed session last week, is for 25 employees. And we're essentially going to be housing 25 employees in a state-of-the-art building that's going to cost upwards of $4 million. There's a possibility that the building could also be demolished and rebuilt, which I'm not sure what that would cost, but that was one of the options that they may consider depending on what they find as they explore the building. But I felt strongly that there's lots of vacant office space in the immediate area, perhaps not in Ridgewood, but within easy commutable distance from Ridgewood, that we could put these employees and our processes in. And I know that that wasn't something that the Water Department was too happy about, but I myself commute 63 miles each way, so for them to commute perhaps a couple of miles to some office space that's within our area, I didn't think that would be so difficult. But I think this project is just a little bit too much for us as a water company. This isn't the village. This is all coming out of the Water Department for 25 employees to be in a back office. And we do have individuals that come in, but you know, the Water Department was here at the beginning of the year asking us for $500,000 to automate so that people wouldn't have to come in, and now they're making the argument that people come in so they need to have this luxury office space. So I just think that we can find some space cheaper, and I'm not as concerned that we own the last property in the campus as I am with spending $4 million for 25 employees. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay, and Hache?
Yeah, and my council members can appreciate also going back and forth on this. From the original proposal, I was definitely in favor, with the understanding that we are in the middle of a large capital improvement project for the infrastructure project for the water company, and that extends beyond tanks, pipes, and wells, and it also goes into operational efficiencies. My hope at the time when it was first introduced was that we would have enough of an offset in terms of the sale of other properties resulting from the consolidation of personnel and operations into this new space, that we would have a significant offset, hard dollar offset, And when we look at the conditions and some of the challenges and the location of some of those assets, it doesn't seem that the market value that we would get to offset the cost is there. But still doesn't negate the fact that we can benefit from the operational efficiencies and be able to consolidate. I'm not really concerned either with having the last piece on the contiguous campus either. But nonetheless, that's, we've looked at some of the efficiencies in having some of the operations consolidated there. And in the last session that we had, when we looked at all the options remaining for Ridgewood Water, it was clear that if we didn't purchase this property, we're going to end up having to demolish and look to build this facility somewhere else, and still would have cost slightly more, in some cases even a lot more than we would look at for this project. So I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, thank you. The last resolution is 18-314. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood Water Department owns and operates a public regional water system that provides potable water to the Village of Ridgewood, boroughs of Glen Rock and Midland Park, and the Township of Wyckoff. The Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood is the governing authority for the Ridgewood Water Utility and is empowered to make purchases and commit funds on the behalf of the water utility. And whereas the water utility owns numerous properties located in the municipalities in the service area, one of the properties, known as the Ravine Well, is located in the Village of Ridgewood, adjacent to Goffle Road at Block 2703, Lot 8. The property is 3,125 square feet in lot area, a small property which permits the location of a well house and a chlorination station, but can accommodate no other improvements. And whereas to come to the attention of the water utility that a property directly adjacent to the Ravine Well, 451 Goffle Road in Ridgewood, known as Block 2703, Lot 8, on the official tax map of the Village of Ridgewood. This lot is 3,049 square feet in lot area and is improved with a small ranch-style one-story residence. And whereas the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection have standards for the presence of volatile organic compounds, VOCs, in potable water. The Ravine Well VOC concentration exceeds federal and state standards and must be treated to remove the VOCs from the distributed drinking water. And whereas the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection have standards for the presence of volatile organic compounds, VOCs, in potable water, the Ravine Well VOC concentration exceeds federal and state standards and must be treated to remove the VOCs from the distributed drinking water. And whereas the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection have adopted new criteria for the presence of per- and polyfluoroalkyl, did I say that right? Substances, PFAS, that's easier, in potable water. All water utilities are required to test distributed drinking water to determine the presence and levels of these substances in the water system, and if found to exceed federal and state standards, treat the water to remove the PFAS from the distributed drinking water. And whereas there are several water utility wells and pump stations in the vicinity of the Ravine Well property that will need to be tested and treated regularly for the presence of PFAS. In the effort to continue its path of efficient and economic distribution of water to its customers, the water utility considers the potential ownership of 451 Goffle Road as an opportunity to provide a location for the centralized treatment of water for the utility's wells located in the vicinity of the Ravine Well. It would be the location of a testing and treatment station that could monitor and treat several wells in the vicinity. And whereas the Water Utility Director has discussed the purchase of 451 Goffle Road parcel with representatives of the owners of the property, although originally listed at $275,000, the owners have indicated the purchase price of $235,000 for the property would be acceptable. The Director has requested the Village Council consider the purchase of the property for $235,000 and the reasons stated above. And whereas in consideration of the above, the Village Council has determined that it is in the best interest of the water utility's operation and future needs to meet government environmental standards to authorize the purchase of 451 Goffle Road, Ridgewood, New Jersey, to consolidate and centralize the mandated testing and treatment of distributed drinking water from the wells in the vicinity of the ravine well. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, that the mayor and the village clerk are hereby authorized to enter into a contract for the purchase of 451 Golfer Road, Ridgewood, New Jersey, for a purchase price of $235,000 on the behalf of and by the Ridgewood Water Utility, and they are further authorized to execute the purchase and sale agreement that may be negotiated by the parties with the advice and consent of the village attorney. I just want to mention this resolution indicates the intent of the council. We do have to provide for the funding, which we do have. It's just we have to go through certain measures to do so, and that will be done at our October 24th meeting. Okay,
So you want a motion? So moved?
that's what I need. Thank
Second.
you. Okay, so I have Deputy Mayor Newton and Councilman Seaton. Newton,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Hache.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we go back to public comment, not to exceed 5 minutes.
Again, Charles Riley, 448 North Maple Avenue. I want to thank Ellie Gruber for clarifying the procedures for mail-in votes. As she explained, you go to a website, you get an application, you send it in, you get the ballot, you fill out the ballot, mail it in. Of course, this is the same cumbersome procedure that was involved with absentee ballots. The only difference being that you don't have to prove that why you are using the ballot, why you're not going to be around, so on. So it's the same cumbersome process, very much the same, and much more cumbersome than being able to go to a ballot, a voting booth, and just say, vote your choice. You don't need data on where parents are in February recess and April recess. I mean, if I don't know how many kids you've had in the school district, but I've had 4. And every winter break and every spring break, when they became juniors, I was traveling down to as far as Atlanta for looking at colleges, as far north as New Hampshire, as far west as Ohio, and each place I saw Ridgewood residents doing the same thing. Now that's just to look at colleges. Let's not talk about Disney World or other activities that go on during those times. You don't need data. You live with this. Anybody who knows the Ridgewood schools knows the parents are just not here in February and in April. Let's get real. In terms of the qualifications of school board members, I was the president of the New Jersey School Boards Association. The New Jersey School Boards Association is mandated by statute to instruct and teach school board members many, many hours of school boardsmanship, including school finance. You can look at books that school board members have to study and be tested on 3 different levels of school finance, school budgets, what they need to know. To say that they're not qualified any more than you are, or a citizen who's not had that experience, is just not true. They spend many hours, and they have to earn credits. And in fact, many school board members become master school board members. They've spent hours and hours learning that certificate, including mandated finance education. Mayor, I believe you're not an attorney, so I'm not going to ask you to do this, but I'll ask any attorney who wishes to show me in the United States Constitution, or in the New Jersey Constitution, if you're talking about a fundamental right, where does the fundamental right to vote on a school budget? You're in fantasy land. There is no such right. When the New Jersey legislature passed legislation some 6 years ago saying that school boards can eliminate the school budget so long as they stay within the mandated caps provided by the state, 97% of school boards did that. No challenge to that. And that is the current position today in New Jersey. 97% of school boards have eliminated the vote on the budget so long as they stay within the cap and have their elections for school board members in November. There would be no challenge to that in terms of any fundamental right to vote on a school budget. So let's be careful about our fundamental rights. When we talk about fundamental rights, we're talking about things like free speech, right to the press. Let's not put school board votes up to that level. There are many things that we have a right to vote on and I cherish. But voting on school board budgets is not one of them. I'll ask any lawyer to show me where that's stated in the U.S. or New Jersey constitutions. Finally, Mayor, school board members don't think voters are stupid, that they can't review budgets and make a decision. That's not the concern. You probably didn't read my letter to the Record or to the Ridgewood News. My concern is that the village council is not prepared to review a budget of the schools within the 3 or 4 weeks you have to do it when there's a failure of the budget. I would have no problem with the public voting on a school budget, and if there's a failed budget, it goes back to the school board to trim the budget, as happens all the time on bond issues. But to have somebody come in who is not familiar with the schools, has no responsibility for the day-to-day operations of the schools, who've been instructed and learned about the schools and how they should function, to review a budget in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks is not appropriate.
Thank you.
And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Cram-Winograd. Sorry for the way I'm dressed. I was listening to you guys while I was waiting for one of my kids at practice, and I decided to come down. I spoke at the school board meeting the other day, and I think Ramon and Susan, you were there and heard what I had to say. My opening statement was that I feel holding a school board election during school break is inappropriate. And I feel that while I understand all the motivations behind the decisions and I've listened generously, we need to put the pause button on this now that we know the date and reconsider this decision. I feel somewhat seriously about that. There's 3 ways for you guys to do this. Heather read them off. You can do it by direct or referendum, which what you did. You can also put it on the ballot as a non-binding referendum and get a pulse check from the community, which is an awesome, awesome option because you'd have an idea of how people feel about it. Or citizens can petition and say, this is how we feel. And that's under Faulkner. What I'm a little concerned with is that, you know, when the school board presented, they gave great feedback, and we didn't even take the time to let it marinate. The day that they presented was the night we voted. And I do think, not in a critical way, that we should have taken the time to say, maybe we should vote, maybe we should go home, maybe we should think about this, sleep on it, and come back. I also think that the non-binding referendum is a wonderful way to look at that. Newton, New Jersey is currently going through that, talking about consolidating their services. You know, I've been in touch with some of their municipality. It's a great pause button. It's a great pulse check. It doesn't cost anything, and it could be on the ballot. You could get a general pulse check as to how the whole community feels about this. So that's just an option. The other point that I want to make is that we've been talking about the mail-in ballots, and the other night when I was listening, I'm a big note taker, as you guys know. I come to a lot of the meetings. It's like, how many people have voted by mail-in ballot? And if we're going to talk about the mail-in ballot as if it's a viable option, which it should be, and as Ellie mentioned, the western states underwent a significant marketing campaign to increase that. We have not done that as a state. Chris Christie actively resisted enhancing voter rights. He vetoed AVR several times, and we really haven't seen a lot of improvements in the voting process. Murphy's doing it a little differently, but AVR is automatic voter registration, so at the state level, we haven't even begun to explore voter rights fully. The western states have done that, and the mail-in ballot's an awesome option. But to give you an idea, I went back in November of last year, which is 17, 432 people voted by mail-in. In May of this year, 403 voted. Essentially, that means all it takes to hijack a mail-in ballot would be a senior class at Ridgewood High School, which is full of voters. More people voted on my prom song in 1991 than voted by mail-in last year in either of the elections. And I find that a little shocking. The other thing that I want to talk about is when we talk about these voting statistics, I really want to make the distinguishment between what denominator we're using, because I know it's been a question. There's about approximately 17,000 voters registered, but there's 25,000 residents. That means about a fourth of the population is not registered. I think we really need to understand that we're looking at a point in the time where the unvoted is demonstrating more power than the voted. The other phrase that I'd like to make note of is that when adults begin to fight about these things, kids lose. When my son Liam went to Orchard, he was in kindergarten, and there was a full teacher allocated to English and Spanish-speaking languages. It was for all the kids. It was to teach Spanish. There was a teacher. By the time Chloe got there, it was Rosetta Stone. And by the time Chloe was in 3rd grade, the program had disappeared. Those cuts, when we start to cut the budget even by $40,000, means things. It means less. It means less for the kids, less services. Typically on the chopping block are busing in terms of convenience, extracurricular activities, which means, hey, we say every kid in the district, you drive to your own games and we cut the busing. When adults have these fights, the kids lose. The last time we did this budget and it went back between the council, we reduced it by 0.01%. That's a significant exercise to go through to reduce it by so little. And the other point I wanted to make is that at the League of Women Voters Luncheon, we did address this with Sheila Oliver. You know, I asked the question specifically about this, and I do believe because Ridgewood is one of the outliers in terms of these off-cycle elections, there is a look at the state level. There is a look because there's been a movement saying that having these off-cycle elections is a form of allowing a smaller body to control the general population. When you have 6 to 10% of the population voting, that's just not really acceptable. And you guys as government should be looking to enhance that vote. I will tell you that my daughter, as a side note, said that back in the day of George Washington and all those good old days, if they could be called that, 85% of the population vote. We're having trouble breaking through 50. I truly feel that the role of government, which is what you guys are, should be to increase the general vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jimmy Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. With all respect to Mr. Riley, 97% of the school boards voted, yes, let's change the date of the election. Hello. That doesn't mean anything. The school boards wanted to change the date of the election. We don't know what the residents wanted. So that's one very valuable point. Siobhan mentioned 17,000 registered voters in Ridgewood, which I find very high, considering we have a total population of 25,000 and we have mostly younger children. So that's a figure I would love to know about more. I don't think this could all be solved because we have one outlier year by the school board next year's calendar changing the date of their vacation or making it a little more easy to vote in April. You know, the calendar isn't, the Easter and Passover, whenever the holidays are, they aren't the same every single year. Some towns are off, Glen Rock's off different than Ridgewood's off. I mean, they're not all the same. And I still feel vote by mail is very easy to do. I don't know how many do or don't. But I really came up to say that I was very proud to know your daughter. You didn't mention she was your daughter. You said you were the leader. But Celeste's program is excellent. And I wonder if you could ask your colleague, Mr. Voigt, to stop drinking out of single-use plastic bottles, give him a thermos, and send him out to the refillable station. That's really what I came to say.
Uh-oh,
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm in trouble.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken?
Ellie, I'll just codify that with, we are all, one of these is placed at our, no, it's placed at our seat. We all have one placed at our seat, so.
But I bring mine.
So I think maybe as a council, we have to just say, don't leave them at our seat anymore.
Maybe we need refillables. We need refillables.
Because if you forgot your water bottle, there's one right in front of you to drink from.
Yeah.
Good evening. Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I just wanted to say a couple things about the move of the election to April. First of all, somebody on the dais said tonight that if it's in November, no one can vote. If it's in April, everyone can vote. There are 6 months now until April. If the Board of Ed is bound and determined to get a lot of people out, and I think they should, they have 6 months to do it. They can do it on Facebook, on other social media, they can do mailings, they can put up signs, they can do all kinds of things. Voting by mail is very easy. For some people, it is easier than going to the polls. In fact, I know one person who frequently comes to the mic here who votes by mail just to make sure that he gets his vote in, ahead of time. So I think it's really insulting to suggest that people are not going to vote by mail. You want people to vote by mail? Get them out there. To me, it is becoming increasingly clear that the argument we're hearing against the April voting is not whether the April date conflicts with the school holiday. To me, it sounds very clear that there are some people that just don't want citizens to have the right to vote. And I completely agree with the mayor that it is a fundamental right. Voting is a fundamental right. Whether I am voting for a local political office in a small town or whether I'm voting for the President of the United States, it is a fundamental right. And lastly, I was shocked to hear a former board member suggest that possibly legal action might be taken against the council when what the council did was restore our legal right to vote. That was quite surprising to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
291 Highland Avenue.
Name, please.
Steve Kim, 291 Highland Avenue. I'm going to talk about the school budget voting. So I tell my kids, I say, voting is empowerment. They say, why? I said, doesn't matter. It's empowerment. Just listen. And that's it. We do it. No questions asked. But imagine if I told them, voting is empowerment, except if there's vacation. If we're in Disneyland, then it's not empowerment. I don't want to do research, so it's okay. So we're going to put that aside. I can't find the mailbox, so we could skip it. There's no such thing. Voting is empowerment, and voting is important. Whether it's fundamental or not, I tell them, and I believe in myself, if there's any ability to vote, there's any ability to have a say, then we do it. Why not? What's the downside? The thing about voting, there are two parts to it. One is the voting right, and the other is voting participation. When there is zero right, participation means nothing. China has close to 100% participation. North Korea has close to 100% participation. Russia has close to 100% participation. You choose the wrong one, you're dead, but you do have 100% participation, but you have zero voting right. Because if you choose the wrong one, they're going to kill you. But here, we have the ability to have the right and have the and the participation has to take care of itself. It's, at least people should have the option to vote. And then the last thing, we talked about the cost and all that other stuff, is the bottom line is we want to be sold, that the budget should be sold to us. It should be communicated to us since we're funding it. It shouldn't be told to us, which is essentially what's happening. They just basically, this is it, look at it, and now we're going to vote on it. And that is not right. That is not right to me. It should be sold to us. It should be communicated to us. And we're smart enough to figure it out. Personally, I've been doing finance for close to 30 years. I could figure this out. And a lot of other people are very smart in this place. I mean, almost everybody can figure this out. And those, I'm happy to help whoever wants me to explain. I'm happy to sit down with them to explain the budget. If the Board of Ed doesn't want to do it, I'll do it for them. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street, and I'm not going to talk about the school budget again. What I would like to say is it's that time of year again where we're approaching election season, and I've written a letter or email to the manager regarding the fact that again we are seeing signs that have been unlawfully placed between the curb and the sidewalk. As you know, last year the Village Council passed an ordinance that prohibited that, but for some reason people haven't gotten it, and there are still signs that are posted in those locations. The reason you passed the ordinance was it's a safety hazard. It creates sight vision problems for drivers seeing pedestrians who perhaps are hidden by the sign. I'm somewhat disappointed because I spoke to a village employee about one of those signs that is located in front of the Park West Tavern, and I was told by that person that he wasn't authorized to remove it. It is my opinion that every village employee should be deputized to remove the signs that are unlawfully placed. If somebody from sanitation happens to be on pickup route that day and they see a sign that's placed between the curb and the sidewalk, they should be able to remove the sign and place it on the resident's lawn. If there is an unlawfully placed sign in the CBD, the individual who is responsible for cleaning the sidewalks in the CBD should be told that you take that sign and you take it into the business that is in front of, and you tell them that the sign is unlawfully placed. I don't understand why, especially because it's a safety hazard, that responsibility is only falling to code enforcement employees. The police department should be doing the same thing. If they're riding around and see that a sign has been unlawfully placed, they should take that sign and put it on the resident's lawn. And if they see the resident, they should tell them about that. So hopefully we can straighten that out. Election season is approaching, and I see more and more signs that are going up every day, and many of these have been placed in the wrong spot. There was some talk about the kiosks tonight, and also a note I sent to the manager this week is there was some confusion on Columbus Day as to whether monies were due in the meter or not, and the kiosks. The village code makes it perfectly clear that that was a holiday. However, it was reported that somebody was directing people that they had to pay that day. I asked the manager if any summonses were issued that day. She promised to get back to me. I have not heard from her yet. It would be my thought that if any summonses were issued, that those should be voided, and they should be voided without somebody having to come into municipal court and get it voided. And if anybody has sent in payment for a summons that was issued unlawfully, that payment should be returned. So hopefully I will be hearing from the manager within the next few days as to what is going on with respect to that. And the last thing I'd like to mention is that I believe you have an error in Resolution 18-314. You've got a lot and block mentioned, and you've got the lot and block number the same for the existing location of the well and the property that you're buying. So one of those is in error, and I guess before the mayor signs it, that should be corrected. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody?
Sorry to come up twice. I believe I can come up twice.
No? Once?
No? Not during the second comment, Matt?
No?
I don't believe so.
No?
Okay.
Sorry. Anybody else?
Only on ordinances.
No? All right, before we wrap up, just again, I'll address some of the comments that were made here. Just to clarify, I don't know when it was mentioned, there was no discussion here, from the dais at least, of wanting to look at data of when people would be on or where they go on vacation. That was never mentioned. Or the qualifications of the school board members, that was never called into question. And my statement about the fundamental right is the fundamental right to vote. That is one of the beauties of being a resident of the United States of America, being a citizen of the United States of America. It's the right to vote on whatever it is, whether it's a school budget, whether it's on a prom theme song. It is about the fundamental right to vote. That was all that I had mentioned. With regard to whether or not I read the letter to the editor, I really don't read the letters to the editor. They're just, in my opinion, just a grandstanding opportunity. I was at the Board of Ed meeting on Monday. I was, and I will ask for a transcript, but I do remember Mr. Riley getting up and saying that, not about, also including talking about the council members not somehow being qualified to vote on the budget, but that the residents did not have the expertise nor the understanding of the complexities of the school budget to be able to vote on it. It actually offended a lot of people who were there, and they share those comments with me, so I'm not the only one who heard it, for sure. We talk about how 90% of the state does things a certain way. We're Ridgewood. We want to pride ourselves in being different than the other 90%. People don't move here and choose to put the children in the school system because we're like the 90% of the rest of the state. I think we should strive to do better than the other 90%. So the concept of doing things because everybody else does a certain way, it doesn't fly. There was a mention about the population as to why only 17,000 registered voters out of 25,000, that 1/4 of the population is not registered to vote. My guess is, based on conversations that we had with Dr. Fishbein, as he mentioned, when we were talking about paying for 50% of the SRO, and he contended it should be 25% because only 25% of the population of Ridgewood is in his schools, in his buildings throughout the day. So I'm assuming that 25%, they're children, they're minors, and they cannot vote. There was a comment about the removal of campaign signs. I don't understand why they're not being removed. I do recall that over 2 years ago, when the three of us were running, some people had placed campaign signs in the public area that we didn't instruct them to do it. They ended up being there, and they were quickly removed at the time. So I don't know why that has changed. I don't recall having any change in policy with regard to the removal of those. I know that if they're on private property, you cannot remove them because that's essentially theft or vandalism. And that's it. That's all I have.
Oh, I just have a quick question. Do we have to deputize people to remove those signs, or is there something that we need to do? And is there, because the suggestion was to take the signs and put them on somebody's lawn, but somebody's probably going to think that if their sign is taken from its location and put on the lawn, that maybe it's a prank, so maybe we have little stickers or something that says improperly or illegally placed sign, or something that we can do to get that.
Well, what I was thinking is an e-notice will be going out, and so I will remind people through that, as well as we'll put it on the website. I think within the ordinance, it deputized several people to do it. I don't know if our sanitation workers were some of them, probably not, is my guess. Right. But there are several people who can enforce it, and we have had police officers move signs from the right-of-way onto private property.
Could we get stickers that say illegally placed sign, so that somebody's going to find this sign on their lawn, and so they're going to say, oh, there's like a prankster, you know, they're going to think it's like kids doing something, so maybe there's something we should place on it that just says this sign was illegally placed in a public right-of-way?
Well, there's a difference between enforcement, there's a difference between enforcement and just being able to remove an illegal sign. If there's signs in the right-of-way, I don't think by ordinance you need authority to go and remove it.
Right.
To write a summons on it, that's a little bit different. So,
okay.
But I think if you go around put stickers on illegal signs, you might as well remove them. So I don't know whether, you know.
You mean remove them and take them?
Yeah, remove them
okay.
if they're illegally,
I'm good with that.
placed.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's an aspect of how to, you know, of personnel that needs to be worked out.
You know, I just want to say, because I actually personally find the signs in the right-of-way, because of the proximity to the road when you're driving, I find them visually distracting, and it becomes dangerous because I'm probably not the only person. I think that was the reason.
And that's why we don't permit it in the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Because it is visually
exactly.
distracting.
So maybe we can get on that.
We will.
Okay, great.
All right.
So we don't have closed session tonight. Originally, we were going to, so I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Good night, everyone.